All right, so today I just played this game on Lead Chess here, and you can see I won. Neurosci guy won this game. Um, to be honest, there was quite a few errors and mistake in it. The reason that I think this is a good video is because if you're going to play a d4 opening, there's two basic defenses that you're going to see the most out of thousands and thousands of games. I've played almost, 25,000 games on Lead Chess now, but and they're all 2-minute games. But the defenses that you're going to see constantly and against d4 are French and King's Indian. And most of the time in the French, I play advanced. And then in response, you're going to get into this sort of, I think it's called Paulson. Let's see what it's called. Go to analysis here. Yeah, advanced variation Paulson attack. And you can see there were quite a few mistakes throughout this game. However, the reason I'm doing this video is because I saw this spike right in the middle, and that I was like, dang, what did I miss? And I gotta tell you, there is just this pinnacle position when you're playing a d4 opening and they play a French. There's this pinnacle moment in the middle, right after the opening phase, that you are trying to achieve in every single game. Now, if it's even more the goal of the opening of the London. If you're doing a London system, a d4 London system, this is the moment that you are just, excuse the terms, but it's the wet dream of this opening. Of a d4 opening. Okay, so that's why I did this video. But French defense and King's Indian, you're going to see it 99% of the time. You might see a queenside fianchetto, but not nearly as often as King's Indian and French defense. So let's unpack this. All right, how do I get back here? Whoa! Ah, shoot. Well, let me go back. Neurosci, whoops, games, oops. Gilmar. Okay, here we go. So, get to the beginning of this game. Sorry about that. It's a long intro. Apologize. Let's get right into it. So, start out d4. e6, that's typically you're going to see the French defense. Then take control of the center, blah, blah, blah. Normal, everybody talks about this, so I'm not going to get into all that. Then advanced. So now you're in French, advance. Let's go to analysis, make sure. Yeah, so French defense, advanced. Now let's just move on. Typical. So you're going to get into this everything's going to pile up on this d4 square. This happens all the time. You're going to see 1,000 games. More than that if you play a lot. All right, so you can see black's lining up everything on a d4 pawn. This bishop on c1 is going to have to come out in a moment. So you're going to have to figure out how in advance of, and the only reason I know this is because I play it over and over and over and over again in these 2-minute games. And when you're playing AI opponents, probably, I would say 80% of the time, you're playing an AI opponent. And that doesn't mean it's perfect. It's just like Chess Master series back in the 80s. You could play against, or any kind of old digital or analog digital chess program from the 80s and 90s. You could play against computer opponents, but they had mistakes built into them so that their chess level was comparable to actual human chess level. So same thing on Lee chess. You know, you're not always playing a human opponent. The more chess games you play, the more AI opponents you're going to run into, and they basically play certain and almost perfect every time openings. So it's a great way when you play 2-minute games to get a pattern recognition of some of the best moves and some of the most come across. That's not the word I'm looking for. Anyway, some of the that you're going to see most of the time. Some of these openings you're going to see most of the time. Anyhow, here we go. I'm just rambling. This is crazy. All right, so in order to, knowing that I have to bring out that C bishop, C1 bishop, you got to play that B move. All right, so here we go. Now, mistake. Once his bishop got covered up, is actually a good move, according to the computer, to go ahead and take that pawn. However, I like to keep my pawn chains intact, and having to cover a E pawn, I just didn't even consider messing with the pawn chain. Bishop comes out. It's not the best move, as you can see. D takes was the best move. And here, the F bishop should come out, attacking the knight, creating pin. It's okay. I'm not going to go into those alternate lines. This is just typically what you're going to see. This pawn comes over and protects. And again, this is a 1900 rated, if it's a human, but I think it's an AI. So, because I've played it multiple times, once I get to this level of a rating, high or low, if I'm going up or down stream on my rating, I always come to this. And this is my 4th time to meet this opponent, which is, anyway, moving on, not rambling any longer. So E7, 0-0, 0-0. We both castle. But you still got this pin you got to deal with. And that can be tricky because you don't want to give up your E pawn because the queen's pinning the D pawn to the king. So you got to be wary of that. I just got rid of that threat in advance of, I had a moment, nobody's attacking anything, so I could take the time to be passive and move the king out of the way. Boom, boom, boom. And here we go. The moment. Now, I spoke about. Here comes the moment. And you can see that the king side is undefended. There's no knight on the king side, on the F6 square. This is the magic moment coming up. Now, this is what every D-pawn opening wants this situation to happen. I mean, this is what you're trying to go for, and it's the fastest way to checkmate. So you're going to win. If you can get this moment, you're going to win 99% of your games. If you can get this situation and you can get this set up, you're going to win 99% of your games. And I failed to see it. Luckily, I still won the game. However, look at that. That's the move. You're set up. You're set up. That bishop's attacking. If it's a London and you get this advanced E-pawn thing going on, or if it's a D-pawn opening and you get this advanced E-pawn, I mean, that king side is naked. It is going to get destroyed because all of your pieces are aimed toward that right side, and all of black's pieces are hemmed in and blocked in by the pawn chain going diagonal across the D and E squares. So this is the magic. This is why I did this video, because this is such a good example. Boom. That is a huge blunder. And in the game, I just don't know why, after thousands and thousands of games, and every single game begging for this situation, I don't know if because I thought it was a 1900 rated opponent or what, they just wouldn't, in the back of my head, they wouldn't ever allow this situation to happen. This is why you have to stay aware. I mean, this is the exact definition of concrete thinking. For some reason, in my brain, I had some subliminal message going on that didn't allow my active brain, part of my brain, to see this. I didn't even see it. But this is everything you want I mean, the bishop takes, and I'm just going to run through it. Because what I did was, I saw the instant attack on my rook, and instead of check, which is the best move. I mean, check is almost always the best move. I mean, if they're going to attack a rook, you need to attack their queen as a defense. You need to attack the queen or the king. You need to threaten a checkmate. That's the three moves better than attacking a rook. Or just as a stalemate, attack their rook. So that's the four things that I should have been looking for. And here's check. And it actually wins the game outright, but I messed up. So I went, boom, rook up. Which when there's a knight or something over here able to protect, so if there was a knight on e7, for instance, and I go rook up, they can protect, in other situations. But I missed this. But this is the pinnacle moment of a game when you have a d4 pawn opening. Boom. Check. You want that knight to be gone. The whole point of advanced variation is to get rid of that knight on the king's side so you can have this onslaught of the king's castling position. It is just absolutely destroyed. All right, it's done. It's done. It's done. Okay, king. No, there's nothing on that diagonal to stop the knight and the queen from coming over. I mean, it was absolute magic, and I totally missed it. Look at this. Oh, I'm so depressed and disappointed in myself after thousands and thousands of games in these 2-minute games that I was half dead asleep in my brain and just didn't recognize this beautiful position. All right. Oh, and look at that beautiful rook move. I mean, next level. What? He can't take. It's checkmate. He has nothing to defend with. I mean, it's so beautiful. Why? Why did I miss this? This is what just astounded me. Why did I miss this? I had this opportunity to play this next level tactic, and in the opening that I know, the whole point is to get that diagonal, that white bishop diagonal opened up, and so it can attack the h7 pawn. And you can just bring all your pieces over. I mean, thousands and thousands of times over, I've done it. Here is a 1900 rated opponent on Lichess, and I failed. I failed myself. I feel like such a loser today. Why did I fail? This is so pretty. Oh my gosh, look at it. Look at it. What's he going to do? It is just, you're done. I mean, and what's next? The follow-up move. I mean, AI analysis only gives you, stockfish analysis only gives you so many moves. But what's the next move? I mean, it's so freaking obvious, and there's just nothing left to do. This is typically going to be brip. And, you're going to go on, but you're going to win. So it's just, I hate the fact that sometimes you get on here and you play so many 2-minute games in a row, you just kind of get on autopilot in some of these things, especially when you're playing an AI opponent and you've played these opening moves 1,000 times, and it just goes on autopilot, and you forget. You forget to think. You forget to look. So that's why I did this video. 2 reasons. 1, don't get distracted. I have a hard time with that. Even in winning positions, you have to stay focused. You can't just go on autopilot. That's one thing. Concrete thinking is another. Don't let your subliminal mind side rail and detract your active mind, your attention focused mind. And third, the whole point of these D pawn openings is to get that kingside attack on that H pawn. This is hands down, that's how you win. And if you're going to win the majority of these D pawn openings, that's what you got to get ready for. That is everything you're trying to do. That's the fastest way to checkmate, and that's the object of the game. The object of the game is to get checkmate in the least number of moves, the most efficient way possible, in a lesser number of moves than your opponent. The faster you get that attack going and set up, then the more games you're going to win. That's the object of chess. And sometimes I think people, forget about that. They go after material, or they're going after a time advantage. They try to play really fast, or they try to get more material. It's not about the material or the time. It's about checkmate and the least number of moves in the most efficient way possible. So anyway, yep, there we go. I feel so bad to myself. I apologize because, dude, I had this amazing thing that I could have done, and there is no stopping it. It is, boom, I think they'll probably do something like that, and I've been in game situations like this 100 million times as well, because it always ends up this way. This is, excuse me, this is the point of deep-pawned openings, is just to demolish that kingside castle. And the other point of a deep-pawn opening is if they castle queenside, you're going to win the majority of those games also, because the A and B pawns are going to get going way faster into the attack than the kingside, than black's kingside can get into attacking your kingside. So if they castle queenside, it's definite disadvantage. That's why the deep-pawn opening is so successful. Anyway, I'm not a chess guru or anything. I just love to get on here and look at all the patterns, and that's about it, really for me. Try to win as much as I can, but, I just like to hang out in this sort of range around 17 to 1900, and sometimes it ends up going lower than that because, you try to work in sacks and different things and see how they come out. But this is the lab. This is basically Lee Chess Lab. And you get on here in these 2-minute games, and you can do all of your experimentation in the lab. And everybody's like, no, you shouldn't play fast games and whatnot. And yeah, maybe that's true. But when you're playing fast games against an AI opponent, your pattern recognition increases because you get to see it. And research shows that it's not repetition, but it's repetition of practice. So you don't want to see the same pattern over and over and over again. That's not the point of repetition. The point of repetition is just to keep practicing, and getting that instant feedback of win-loss, of right-wrong, of pass-fail, in these situations. And that's what trains your brain to understand. And again, you don't want to get into concrete thinking where your attention focused mind and your creative subliminal mind, your daydream mind are so disjointed that you can't find something new and intriguing. I think that's the magic of Carlsen and why he's the greatest of all time, is because, Magnus Carlsen has a mind that, even though he's played thousands and thousands of games and he knows the patterns and he knows the openings, etc., 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 chess is not solvable because there's too many astronomical variations out there and potentialities. And I think Carlsen, in his mind, he's able to switch, and there's a specific brain region. You're able to switch between your mind wandering and creative mind versus your attention focused and driven working mind. So that's why I think he's so great. And you don't want to get into concrete thinking. You want to be able to be flexible. You want to be able to, deal with flux, like dealing with a Carlsen. You got to be able to be ingenuitive and driven at the same time. That's two different mindsets. So you got to be able to work that way. But seeing these games in two, it's 2+1. So you don't want to just do 2 because online you can never deal with it's hard enough in 2+1 to deal with the time lags. And yes, you're going to lose on time a lot because of it. But in these games, you can study these openings, and then you get on 365chess.com, and you start going through all the opening trees, and you can really get in some in-depth studies, seeing all these patterns over and over again from AI opponents, who play openings practically perfectly out to about 20 moves. And then that's when all the changes and variations, and typically that's when in the middle after about 18 to 20 moves, that's when you're going to see all of the mistakes and blunders go on in the game. And then typically at the end you don't see hardly any mistakes. It's usually in the middle. But anyhow, that's the video today. Disappointed that I didn't out of all these thousands of games, I'm disappointed in myself that the 1900 level opponent that I could have just obliterated the kingside against, I missed it. It hurts my soul. My God, it hurts my soul. But anyway, that's D-Pawn openings. Advanced French fence. You're going to see that most of the time. And King's Indian, be ready for it.